You couldn't have thought that through. I know you've been behind the walls, but 50 didn't fool with Ross. So why did you think it'd be a good idea to get in the pictures and start getting close to dude? For some money? Because he paid you a couple dollars? Did 50 make your son a millionaire? Then you come home to you know what I'm saying? Because 50 put your life on TV and had your son playing.
What happens when the man who made you a star suddenly calls you a traitor and the streets start whispering that you're a snitch? The drama between 50 Cent and Big Meech just hit a level nobody saw coming, just when it looked like the drama between 50 Cent and Big Meech had already reached its peak. Things took an even sharper turn. 50 has now thrown a new accusation into the fire, claiming that Boy betrayed him and came after him directly. That allegation has the streets buzzing, with whispers beginning to brand Boy as a snitch, the same way they once labeled Big Meech. But is there any truth to it? And what exactly pushed 50 to call him out? Grab a seat, this is only getting more intense. The spark came when old footage resurfaced of Bowie boldly saying he'd be performing at Big Meech's homecoming concerts. That was just the beginning. Soon, more clips appeared, showing Boy taking direct shots at 50. In one, he even said that if he were Lil Meech, he would have told 50 to back off. As expected, 50 wasn't about to let that slide. His history makes it clear. Like Rick Ross, Boy may have underestimated just how dangerous it is to make an enemy out of someone who treats betrayal as the ultimate sin. 50 doesn't believe in warnings or second chances. Once crossed, he escalates, and this time was no different. Beyond doubling down on his long-standing claims that Big Meech is a rat, he's been targeting Boy from every angle. And if history is any guide, 50 won't be letting this feud fade quietly anytime soon.
Performing at the Big Meech party? Yeah, I'm performing. I gave Big Meech my word, that I was gonna perform, and I ain't, I give a man my word, that's my word. I don't know what's going on, I can't just pull away from not performing over something, they got going on with 50.
Back in the day, Boyd built a name for himself by never backing down from anyone he thought might be a snitch. Just look at how he handled Roro, relentless and unapologetic. Because of that reputation, people assumed he'd show the same hostility whenever Big Meech's name came up. Instead, Boy surprised everyone. He openly stated that he'd never seen any evidence proving Meech had informed on anyone. That stance raised eyebrows, especially since it seemed to put Charleston White in a positive light, a move many fans didn't expect. His track record only added fuel to the confusion. When Boy once suspected T.I. of being an informant, he instantly cut ties with him, proving that he never tolerated even the hint of betrayal. Boy snitching was unforgivable, no matter who was involved. Yet, his fiery words seemed aimed selectively. When rumors spread that he was performing at Big Meech's show for free, Boy pushed back quickly. "No," he said, "I'm not doing no show for free. I'd charge anyone who just came home. Y'all just think I'm heartless." Still, 50 Cent and his camp weren't buying it. Online chatter quickly painted Boy as someone who chose which villains in the industry to call out and which to protect. If you've been following the feud, you already know 50 hasn't let up on Big Meech for weeks. And he made that even clearer with one Instagram post that went viral, a picture of a massive rat, captioned with the line, "I think I'm Big Meech."
That's this, because I'm not trying to let nobody trick me off the streets. But I never folded, never told, never will. Death before dishonor, always with me. So I'm doing this for my loved ones and the support of my friends and family to come out to the Amaran Arena. February.
That single sentence from 50 shook the culture. It landed like a double-edged blade. On one side, it was a jab at Rick Ross, since the line came straight out of his hit BMF. On the other, it was a direct strike at Big Meech himself. But 50 wasn't finished. He doubled down, declaring, "Maintaining my relationship with Tammy Cowan was the biggest mistake I ever made. Her documentary series exposes the truth." That statement alone left people reeling. Fans began asking the same questions, over and over. What secret lies in that documentary? What does 50 know that the public doesn't? Then came another bombshell. 50 shared a phone call with Tammy Cowan, where she seemed ready to spill everything about Big Meech. The feud had officially shifted into uncharted territory. What made the tension even stranger was the past. Not long ago, viral photos showed Meech and 50 smiling together after his release from prison. But by late February, 50 had flipped the script, unleashing a non-stop barrage against him online. And here's where the story gets even murkier. Meech was sentenced to 30 years back in 2008, yet he walked free after just 18. For many, that was more than enough to raise suspicion. On the streets, whispers quickly grew into full-blown speculation. To someone like 50, the whole situation screamed foul play. And it wasn't just rumor, he was coming for Meech from every angle. Reports surfaced that Tammy Cowan, Meech's longtime business partner, had flipped while he was locked up, working with the FBI. Even wilder, while still behind bars, Meech sold her the rights to his life story, giving her complete control over everything tied to BMF. But the deeper people dug, the uglier it looked. Industry figure Whack 100 claimed that Meech was secretly funneling Tammy information from inside prison intel that allegedly made its way straight to the feds. Many now believe that connection is what helped shave years off his sentence and paved the way for his early release. This is where the story takes an even messier turn. Tammy Cowan wasn't just another business partner in Meech's orbit. She co-produced the Black Mafia Family TV series alongside 50 Cent, the same show where Lil Meech plays his own father. Their connection dates back to 2007, when Tammy and Big Meech first began working together. But according to their own words, their bond wasn't strictly business. Many believe Tammy blurred the lines, mixing work with personal feelings and possibly falling for Meech along the way. By 2014, while Meech was still serving time, Tammy openly called him her best friend, even saying the experience of knowing him was one of the most important in her life. For 50 Cent, that closeness later turned into a major vulnerability. He claimed Meech's biggest mistake wasn't just trusting Tammy, it was losing her and allowing their relationship to fracture. Now, with Tammy allegedly preparing to spill everything in a tell-all series, the betrayal stings even deeper. 50 wasted no time in underlining his point. On Instagram, he posted a video of a man describing what it meant to be a snitch, only this time Big Meech's face was edited on top. The message was unmistakable, and if anyone thought 50 had reached peak pettiness, he was only just starting. As the theories circulated, two explanations for Tammy's turn gained traction. Some argued Meech felt abandoned and wanted back control of his story after selling her his life rights while in prison. Others suspected Tammy simply wanted to secure her hold over the BMF narrative. But the darker theory was harder to ignore. If Meech was truly feeding Tammy information from inside prison, then she holding all the keys could have been the very person funneling it to the feds. After years of Tammy safeguarding his image, handling his affairs, and preserving his legacy, the tables flipped. And when whispers of betrayal spread, Meech couldn't afford silence. He fired back, claiming his early release wasn't the result of snitching but of a legal technicality, a change in the law. The problem? His explanation didn't hold up to scrutiny. Records showed that in 2021, a judge reduced his sentence by just 3 years under the First Step Act, but Meech had walked free 12 years early, not 3. That math didn't add up, and it left the public suspicious. To quiet the speculation, Meech recorded a video response, looking directly into the camera and flat out denying that he had ever cooperated. Still, doubts lingered, and the feud only burned hotter. Meech's attempt to clap back only made things worse. Thinking he could spar with 50 online, he posted an old photo of the two together but covered 50's face with a cheese sticker that read "Internet Gangster." Instead of silencing the rumors, the move backfired. Fans weren't laughing. They wanted him to address the snitching accusations head-on, not hide behind subliminals. Then came the breaking point. A video surfaced of Big Meech alongside 50's longtime nemesis, Rick Ross, promoting an upcoming concert. For many, that was the ultimate betrayal. Imagine this: a man who held you down during your sentence, gave your son a platform, and kept your legacy alive through a hit TV series, only to watch you re-emerge and align yourself with his bitterest rival. That's exactly how it looked. To the public, .50 didn't let it slide. He threatened to shut down the BMF series, entirely the same show that had launched Lil Meech's career. The tension became real when 50 unfollowed Lil Meech on Instagram and mocked him publicly, even suggesting he'd replace him with a role on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. The pressure forced Lil Meech into an impossible position: stay loyal to the man funding his future, or stand with the father who had just come home with nothing. Private messages between 50 and Lil Meech soon leaked. revealing the young actor pleading with 50 to keep BMF alive. In those texts, Lil Meech even mocked Ross and his father to prove his loyalty. "Ross only gave my dad a little money to pay his bills until the next season started. You know me, I've always been faithful to you. Don't treat me like the enemy." But instead of sympathy, 50 hit back coldly. "Next season, little ninjas," a dagger straight to the heart. The internet could feel the weight of that line. It wasn't just pettiness, it was punishment. For many fans, Lil Meech quickly became the real casualty in this ongoing war of egos, loyalty, and betrayal. He wasn't just another player in the drama, he was the one standing right in the middle of two giants, forced to absorb blows that weren't even meant for him. On one side stood his father, the legendary Big Meech, a man whose name carried both fear and respect across the streets for decades. On the other stood 50 Cent, one of hip-hop's most ruthless moguls, who had not only transformed Lil Meech into a star through the BMF series, but also made sure his career had direction when there might have been none. For a young man barely finding his footing in the entertainment world, being torn between blood and business was a battle he could never win. Fans could sense it. Every leaked text message, every viral post, every thinly veiled jab was like watching a young man sink deeper into a quicksand he had no control over. His attempts to hold both worlds together only highlighted how fragile the situation had become. Lil Meech wasn't just humiliated, he was being tested on a stage that the entire internet was watching. And no matter how he moved, someone was going to accuse him of betrayal. And then came the comparisons to 50's own past. The irony was hard to miss. In 2018, 50 Cent's relationship with his biological son, Marquise Jackson, completely unraveled. What cut the deepest wasn't just the distance between it was the image that surfaced of Marquise standing shoulder to shoulder with the son of Supreme McGriff, a man many consider one of 50's deadliest rivals. 250, that wasn't just poor judgment, it was treachery. And once that photo went public, the bridge between father and son collapsed beyond repair. He never looked at Marquise the same way again. So when the world saw Lil Meech exchanging messages with 50 Messages, where he seemed to downplay his own father's connection with Rick Ross and even poke fun at him, it triggered that same wound in 50 all over again. For him, it wasn't about whether Lil Meech meant every word or not, it was about déjà vu. The betrayal of sons siding against fathers, or appearing to mock them, was a cycle he had lived through once already, and now, it was repeating, only this time it was wrapped inside the chaos of the BMF empire. The symbolism didn't go unnoticed. Fans on social media pointed out how eerily similar the situations were, and how 50's icy responses seemed less about business strategy and more about personal pain. The internet has a way of making everything louder, more dramatic, and more permanent. What might have been a private misunderstanding years ago was now etched into screenshots, retweets, and endless commentary threads. Lil Meech wasn't just fighting for his career, he was fighting for his dignity in a digital arena where every stumble is magnified. Then came the viral video. The one where Lil Meech appeared visibly drained, his body language heavy, his face stripped of the confidence he usually carried. For many fans, that clip became a turning point. It wasn't just about Meech defending his father anymore, or about begging 50 to keep BMF alive. It was about the human cost of a feud that had spiraled out of control. Behind the flashy headlines and Instagram pettiness was a young man who looked like he was carrying the weight of two empires on his shoulders, and crumbling under it. And the tragedy was that his loyalty still wasn't enough. Even after downplaying Rick Ross's involvement, even after reassuring 50 that his father's connection was nothing more than temporary financial help, Lil Meech's words didn't sway the man who had made him a star. 50 had already drawn his line in the sand. To him, trust wasn't a game. Once violated, there was no going back. Boy, never one to shy away from commentary. Put it bluntly, in a way that many couldn't ignore, 50 Cent did more for Lil Meech than anybody else in his life. That statement stung because, in many ways, it rang true. While Big Meech's legacy gave Lil Meech a name, it was 50 who gave him a career, a paycheck, and a platform to showcase his acting talent. Without BMF, Lil Meech might still be in the shadow of his father's legend rather than carving his own path in Hollywood. And now, watching him forced to choose between loyalty to blood or gratitude to opportunity was a cruel reminder of how unforgiving both the streets and the industry can be. But let's pause for a second and really think about what Lil Meech was facing. Imagine being raised with the burden of a name like Big Meech, a name tied to both wealth and infamy, luxury and indictments, brotherhood, and betrayal. You grow up watching your father's empire fall apart, watching him sentenced to 3 decades in prison, and all the while the streets hold you accountable for a reputation you didn't even help build. Then, when your father is gone, another man, an outsider, a rival in some ways, steps in and gives you everything: a career, a mentor, a chance at independence. And when your father finally comes home, he expects you to be the same loyal son, who stands beside him, no matter how shaky his past has become. That's the tug-of-war Lil Meech is living. The tug between gratitude and bloodline, survival and loyalty, legacy and future. For fans watching from the outside, it's easy to say what he should do, but for a young man caught in the center of this storm, every move feels like a betrayal to someone he loves. And here's where it cuts even deeper. 50 knows what betrayal feels like from a son. He's felt the sting of watching his own flesh and blood stand with the enemy. That scar never healed. So when Lil Meech's leaked words even hinted at disrespect toward Big Meech, it wasn't just business. For 58 was personal. To him, it was history repeating itself, another cycle of loyalty broken, another reminder that trust can crumble even inside your own home. As fans dissected the situation, opinions split. Some argued 50 was being too harsh, punishing a young man who was simply trying to juggle impossible circumstances. Others sided with 50, pointing out that loyalty is the foundation of both street codes and business empires, and that Lil Meech should have known better than to downplay his father to someone like 50. Regardless of where people stood, one truth was clear: Lil Meech was drowning in a feud that was never his to begin with. And as the drama unfolded, a haunting question lingered in the air: was Lil Meech doomed to repeat the mistakes of his father, trapped in a cycle of alliances, betrayals, and endless public scrutiny? Or would he eventually break free from the shadow of both Big Meech and 50, carving his own identity beyond the weight of their feud? What made the situation sting even more was that, at its core, the BMF series wasn't just entertainment, it was a lifeline. For 50, it was another notch in his empire building, proof that he could turn street legends into global television. For Big Meech, it was a way to cement his story, to control the narrative of his empire even from behind bars. And for Lil Meech, it was everything: a job, a calling, a chance to step out of the shadows and stand on his own. The thought of losing it because of internet feuds and family politics was devastating. In the end, what fans were watching wasn't just a hip-hop beef, it was a Shakespearean tragedy unfolding in real time. Fathers and sons clashing, mentors and protégés splitting, loyalty being tested and redefined under the bright lights of social media. And at the heart of it all, a young man named Lil Meech, caught between the ghosts of the past and the demands of the present, struggling to hold on to a future that seemed to slip further from his grasp every day.